Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Purple Update. This is our inaugural episode, or I guess I should say my inaugural episode of doing this show. If you are not familiar with me, I am Joe Johnson, owner of purplePTSD.com, VikingsTerritory.com, PurpleTerritoryRadio.com, and the co-host of Morning Joes, the largest Vikings podcast in the game, at least the largest morning show, which I don't think there's a whole lot of competition. I have a very special guest on my first episode ever. Some of you may be familiar with his name, especially after I explain who he is. Brandon Lang of BrandonLang.com is here. He hosts the Believe in the Sharp Edge podcast, which is on the Believe podcast, and is the central character of the Matthew McConaughey Al Pacino sports classic, Two for the Money. Welcome.
What up, dog?
You know, I'm a Vikings fan, so I'm aging horribly. But I think things are going well for the team, and I was actually really hoping to have you here because I do a lot of really almost incestuous Vikings coverage. All the independent Viking sites talk to each other. I only talk to my writers really about football and my immediate family, which is as crazy as I am when it comes to the Vikings. And so it's really hard to get a sense of how people outside of that bubble see the team, especially from shade towards PFF or Pro Football Focus, but I feel like when there's money on the line, the people remove all emotion and they really just look at the nuts and bolts and history and a lot of analytics, obviously, but from a different perspective. And that's why you're here, is to hopefully either make me feel better about the Vikings that are 6-2 heading into a pretty interesting game in Kansas City, or if they are going to do what the Vikings have always done, which I've always said the best bet you can make is the Vikings blowing it. 50 years plus in a row, they've come through on that one. So thanks for being on. And if you wanted to give people just a quick idea of what you do at BrandonLang.com, we'll get into some hard-hitting questions.
Well, listen, the bottom line is it's about who covers the spread. We have 10 handicappers on the site. We all do a great job. Guys are hot. Some guys are not. You can pick your handicapper. We got a one-day free all-access pass where you can get every best bet Saturday or Sunday absolutely free. My way of saying thanks for coming to the site. And that's it. The movie came out in 2005. Pretty nice having Matthew McConaughey play you in the movie. But at the end of the day, you got to win a game.
Yeah.
Last weekend, the weekends I've won 9 the last 12 weekends. Had a nice weekend last week in Ohio State, best bet on Saturday. Patriots, best bet on Sunday. And my business model is you got to win Saturday and Sunday. And that's kind of how my business model is set up. As far as how people view your Minnesota Vikings, I'll give you a perfect example of why Minnesota. Don't get your hopes up too much. You said they blow it. I'll give you a perfect example. When you play a team like Washington on a Thursday night, you have to announce your presence with authority, and you have to beat that team like a drum. You have to win that game 41-10, and you don't mess around, and you just show the world, you know what? This is what you better watch out for. You don't get inside the red zone and kick field goals and never punt in the game and only score 19 points.
6 or 7 holding penalties in the red zone.
Well, but I'm just saying, that's one thing you do not do. Do you see the Patriots do that? Do you see Green Bay do that? See, the difference between the Patriots and Minnesota and Tom Brady and Kirk Cousins and Belichick and Zimmer, the perfect example of that. Vikings fans can look at it any way they want. The difference is when the Patriots get a team in their building, regardless of the day that they're supposed to beat like a drum, they beat them like a drum. They win the game by 20-something points, and they don't look back. The Minnesota Vikings get a team like Washington that is horrible, and they can't put them away, and they struggle. And so people in Minnesota, we're 6-2. It's a mirage. Don't drink the Kool-Aid because when your gun's to the head, and you need this team to step up They have a coach that coaches tight. He always has. He always will. He doesn't coach loose. He coaches tight. He doesn't coach to win. He coaches not to lose.
Okay, I was going to ask you what you meant by that.
And that is the biggest issue I've had with Zimmer over the years, even as a defensive coordinator. The chances he would take on third down at Cincinnati. Some coaches in this league coach to win. Some coach not to lose. Example: Vic Fangio, Denver, 3rd and 5, minute 55 to go. To pick up the first down and end the game against the Colts. He runs it and punts. That's coaching not to lose. Now, let's go to Matt LaFleur in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. It's 3rd and 5 against Kansas City, up 7. What do? They throw a pass, pick up the first down, and take a knee. That's coaching to win.
I take it you're not a fan of what Nagy did then.
No, that's coaching not to lose. And if you're going to be successful in the NFL, look at how many times Bill Belichick goes for it on 4th and 1 when people think he's absolutely crazy. Yeah, it's backfired a couple times, but the guy's got 6 rings for a reason as coach of the Patriots. He coaches to win, not to lose. And
I had Chad Greenway on my other podcast 2 weeks ago, and he kept talking about the entire league, and then he kept saying except for the Patriots. I just found it interesting that, I mean, it makes sense. I know a lot of people love to hate the Patriots. I don't. I mean, I'm a big Big Ten guy, so I like to rub Tom Brady in people's faces. But
listen. The Patriots have made me more money than any team in the history of the NFL because I can count on them and their coach to win. And when he's supposed to beat a team, he will beat them like a drum.
That's what I've been asking for.
Minnesota has cost me so much money because of a coach that coaches not to lose.
Yeah, I was going to ask you my follow-up question. I think I know where this is going. A. B, I also can see why they made a movie about you. I'm getting a little jealous here. But is it hard to set a line for a team like the Vikings? Because we do score predictions at the end of every podcast, and I sometimes I really don't know which way to go with it in regards to this team. They seem to be all over the place in general. That the Bears game, the Packers nightmare, and then they've played not great opponents the last couple weeks, and they've done well. I think Cousins played well against the Redskins, if there's any silver lining there. But how do you quantify something that is that unpredictable, I guess? I mean, I'm not asking for like the algorithm, but how do you do that with a team like the Vikings?
Well, listen, they're 5-3 against the spread. They did cover the 6 number at the Giants, nice. They did cover the 3.5 at home against Philadelphia, nice. They did go in Detroit -2.5, nice. My point with them is they can't be trusted against bad teams in certain situations. They just can't. They're very. I call them a bipolar team.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're going to get from week in to week out. And so they lost to Green Bay, they lost to Chicago, 2 very winnable games. But like you said, they really haven't faced anyone. And now they're laying 2.5 on the road at Kansas City. We don't know if Mahomes is playing, so we don't know whether that line will come down to a pick 'em if it's Nelsey's playing. Who knows? If Mahomes plays, I almost like Kansas City and the points. If he doesn't play, I can't see more beating this Minnesota defense. That's it. But I won't bet the game. And I'm not saying this because I felt Washington was the right side of the game that Minnesota was the right side of the game against Washington, and I got buried -16.5. I'm still trying 2 weeks later to figure out how I lost a game when my team didn't punt in the game. I'm still scratching my head right now saying, how do I lose a game as a gambler when my team didn't? If that's New England and Brady and they go a whole game without punting, I assure you they put up 40, 100%. To sit there and watch Cousins in the red zone and the play calling, just how atrocious it was. And I'll give you another example. When they got it down there inside the 10-yard line at the end of the game, and it was 1st and 10 with 3:21 to go, do you know what Brady and Belichick do there? Brady and Belichick throw the football because they're seeing a certain defense. They want to run a certain play to see if that play will work because somewhere down the line they're going to need that play. And so they don't care regardless of the score. Example, when they're up 37-0 against Miami Dolphins down in Miami with 4 minutes to go, They got Brady still in the game throwing the football, and he throws a touchdown pass. They win 40. It was 36, and they win 43-0. That was at Miami with less than 4 minutes to go, running plays because they're going to need those plays later on. What does Minnesota do? Run, 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 run. Here's the ball back. That's my difference. So
I think Zimmer would be happy winning every game 6-3, like it's 1962
and that's
or something.
The wrong that's the wrong attitude to have if you're going to go to elite status in the NFL.
I got burned for it last year, but after the way the defense started, the first 4 weeks of that season, after Doug Peterson essentially broke Zimmer's brain, I wrote about him being on the hot seat, assuming the defense continued to struggle, because I felt that they had basically checked out on what Zimmer was selling. That's the take I got from it. I still see glimpses of that this season, though. It's like, when you say they're bipolar, it's on both sides of the ball. So it's the defense started out hot. They looked good. I mean, they're still only giving up 15.5 or so points a game. It's probably a little bit less than that now. But the Redskins were averaging 6 points a game the 4 games before the Vikings. They gave up 9. If Keenum hadn't gone down, that could have been a completely different conversation. I don't see Zimmer ever having the mentality to win a championship, and I have the really softball cliche question about the odds for the Vikings to win the Super Bowl. I have a feeling that's not a bet you would take.
Nope.
Ever?
As a coach.
Nope, yeah, I feel like we've reached the pinnacle of what Zimmer can do. It almost reminds me in a weird way of Denny Green, but different. He had the brand of being 1-and-out in the playoffs every year, despite having, gaudy records, and I think he made the playoffs 8 out of the 9 years that he was head coach. Zimmer, I don't want that to be his legacy, but I don't agree with a lot of things that he does, personally. So
Think
when
about
it comes
this. There's a saying that I live by in the NFL. I've done this for 30 years, and he's had games for 30 years. Players win games. Coaches lose games. That's it. Simple as that.
Yeah.
That's
really profound, actually. I might
Zimmer loses ways to win loses games he should win with coaching, and that's it. And until the Minnesota Vikings get rid of him, and for me, and I'm saying this for Vikings fans, and people are like, "Oh, Matt Lang, he's full of crap." Whatever, it's my opinion, and this is it. But the window of opportunity for Minnesota is closing fast because this defense isn't going to be there forever. Free agency, trades, salary cap, whatever. I just have a feeling that you had Teddy Bridgewater. All the guy does is win. That's all he does, is he wins. And I said when they got rid of Teddy Bridgewater, there went their chances to win the Super Bowl. And here came Case Keenum, and now you got Kirk Cousins, and don't even get me started on Kirk Cousins.
I was going to ask you.
Kirk Cousins will never be a clutch elite quarterback to win the big game when the pressure is on. He makes too many mistakes. For a reference, see the Bears games. For a reference, see the Packers game. Interceptions in the red zone come from stupidity and ignorance and not professionalism. And one thing Kirk Cousins does on a consistent basis, when he gets tight and the game is on the line, he will figure out a way to lose the game instead of figure out a way to win a game. Some quarterbacks are clutch. Some quarterbacks aren't. On a consistent basis, you cannot bet on Kirk Cousins because let history show he has come up short a lot more than he has come up clutch in the story.
Yeah, I was not a completely sold on Bridgewater as the future up until the day of his injury. I actually literally wrote an article because there was a lot of people getting mad at me, a lot of them, because I was basically saying that Bridgewater wasn't an elite quarterback yet, whatever that means. After the preseason game, the last one he played in, he was dropping dimes down the field. I was a little worried about his deep game. I had Tommy Kramer on my show. He talked about his throwing motion being not Vince Young-ian, like sidearm, but there was a little bit of a sidearm to it. He wasn't getting enough air into the ball. He seemed to be doing that, and then his leg exploded. But so I wasn't really sold on him as like a gaudy sort of stats guy. But he did really win a couple games. He was clutch. I remember specifically a Bears game with a Diggs touchdown late in it. He just It's ice water running through his veins, it seems.
The guy just went 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread, and said, "There you go,
Oof.
Dries. The yacht's sailing fine, kid. Go get him." And as a starting quarterback in the NFL, Teddy Bridgewater, 28-7, straight up,
Wow.
as a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Nice job, Minnesota. Nice job. We'll see you on campus.
I was going to ask you
That's
about some prop bets like Cousins for MVP, or I'd rather, since you talked about it a little bit, get your take on Cook. I read somewhere that he was making a lot of people a lot of money this season in regards to over performing what people expected from him. I mean, I know everyone up here outside of betting, we all thought he was good, but we didn't think he was this good. Do you see, like, where are you at with him being the rushing leader at the end of the season? I forget what the over-under was on the yardage, too, the last time I saw it for the season. I think it was like 1,100 before the season started, which is actually pretty decent. But
Yeah, I'd ride that over, because obviously with the offensive line playing as well as they are, and looking at their schedule, they're facing some teams that give up some yards against the run.
Kansas City.
Kansas City, he should have a monster game. They'll feature him against that defense who can't stop anybody. Dallas, you can move it a little bit. Denver at home, getting that Denver defense in Minnesota. You can run a little bit on Seattle. Detroit at home, Chargers, Green Bay, and Chicago. So favorable schedule. If it was 1,100, it's probably moved a little bit. I would propose it maybe be 12. I would probably play. I'd still play over the posted total. I see him getting over 1,500 yards as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah.
Which would be a solid season for him.
Who out of the NFC is your favorite to make it all the way?
I'll tell you what. I can't.
Is it too early to say?
I can't. No. I'm locked in.
Or am I asking you to give
100%.
away something that's very valuable?
No,
because
not
I'm
at all. Because
bad at my job.
No, what I do at brandling.com is it's a game by game progression.
Okay.
My biggest NBA play of the year goes tonight. It's a game I love, and tomorrow we'll figure out what we're going to release tomorrow. It's a day by day progression. So me giving out a future of what I think is going to happen completely changes. Listen, the team I'm about to give you is probably going to be hosting the NFC playoffs all the way through, and I may take the dog when those teams meet in the conference championship game or the divisional round. But based on what I've seen, nobody's going to beat the New Orleans Saints in the NFC when the time comes, for two reasons. One, people have no idea how good their defense is. People have no idea how good their secondary is playing right now. People have no idea what they just did, the 5 games that they just went through, and without Drew Brees, and to go 5-0. Yeah, Teddy played great and didn't make mistakes, but I'm telling you right now, that defense showed up at Seattle and flat out got the job done. And that defense came back home and held the Dallas Cowboys 10 points. That defense turned right around and held Jameis Winston and Tampa Bay down. And that defense turned right around and went right into Jacksonville as a dog and took care of business. And that defense turned right around and went right into Chicago and said, "See ya, Mitchell Trubisky. I'll make you my little biatch." Right? And after that, they came back home, and Kyler Murray struggled big time. Their offense is always going to do what their offense is going to do. Yeah. What people don't realize is this is the best defense that Sean Payton has had in his entire time at New Orleans. And with the offense that he has, nobody's beating him. Nobody in the NFC when it comes to playoff time.
Unless the Vikings do it 6-3. The last question I'll ask you, and I appreciate your time, is I've been very closely watching what's going on in the legislature in Minnesota in regards to legalizing sports betting, and with Iowa doing so, and some of the people from the legislature in Minnesota going down there and watching it with a close eye. I see really it just being a formality until basically everybody outside of Utah maybe legalizes betting. So there's going to be a lot of new people, and a lot of people that are listening to this or streaming it they're intimidated by betting. They've probably been yelled at a blackjack table for doubling down at the wrong time. What would you say, especially in regards to like what your site does? Is the easiest way for a new person to dip their toes into the worlds of online sports betting?
Just there's a lot of handicappers out there. There's a lot of websites. There's a lot of people that do what I do now, especially with it being legal. We have set up my website in such an easy way for people to kind of dive in that every one of my handicappers releases just one play a day. And you find a handicapper you like, you read their bios, you get a play, and let's say you're going to go spend $50 on scratch-off tickets. Well, let's say you take that $50 and you get my best bet on Saturday. Put $20 on it. All right, it's like buying a $20 lottery ticket.
Yeah.
Your online accounts will allow you to bet $5 on a game, $10 on a game. They're out there, and you can sign up and post your credit card and put $250 on your credit card. Now you got $250 in your account. So now you get my best bet, put $20 on it. On Saturday I hit it. Now you're up 20. All right. Now on Sunday you take that 20. Now let's bet 40 on my Sunday best bet. Boom, you hit it. Now you've made $60 on my Saturday and Sunday best bet. Now come Monday I don't have a big play, so you put $10 on my Monday night play. All right, it loses. Okay, now you just won $50 Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Now the new week starts on Tuesday. Now you go. And with money management, with discipline, you're going to be successful if you follow that. The problem people make is instead of buying one scratch off, they buy 20. You bet a game. You bet more than you can afford to lose. Mistake number one. Number two, have fun with it. It's for entertainment purposes only, and just have fun with it and stay within what your bankroll is. I'm only going to wager $100 this week, and when that $100 is done and I happen to lose, that's it. I'm not going to do anything until the next week. And if you do that, my handicappers on my website are going to win enough for you to make a little bit of money, or my website wouldn't be prospering 14 years after the movie came out in 2005.
Totally.
And that's
apparently
it. And
you don't die at the end of the movie. Spoiler alert for everyone out there.
No, I'm well alive, living in Vegas, and life is great. And at the end of the day, it boils down to this: you're only as good as your product. And if we didn't do things correctly at BrandonLang.com, we would not be able to sustain the momentum of what I do. I've been doing this 30 years. All I've done is handicap games, and I'm still doing it. So do I have bad losing streaks? Let me explain something to you. Everybody that handicaps games for a living has bad losing streaks. Hell, they made a movie about my life. I can't win enough.
Hence the third act of that movie. Pacino seemed pissed.
Yeah, I can't win enough to sustain the demand of people that want my picks. But what I can do is if you hang in there and ride it, at the end of the year, you're going to make a little bit of money. And then my Super Bowl record of 23-3-2, there's been 2 ties. I'm 23-3 with the Super Bowl pick, #1 mark in the entire world. It's kind of what has defined my career. I just don't lose Super Bowls. And my wife will be the first to tell you that I lost one that I was on the wrong side of the game. The other 2 I never should have lost. So technically, in the Lang household, I should be 25-1-1, or sorry, 25-1-2, instead of 23-3-2. The two that I lost was New Orleans, Indianapolis. When on Tuesday after the line came out, I came downstairs and told my wife, "You can't give the #1 offense in the NFL more than a field goal on a neutral field." And I went against Breeze and the Saints, and they beat Peyton Manning. The other one was I had Pittsburgh plus 3.5 over Green Bay, and if you remember that game, Pittsburgh's up 4 into the third quarter. They're 2nd-1 at the Green Bay 40. They're going right through them. They're probably going to score and go up 11. Game over. And they ran it. Clay Matthews read it, blew it up. It's a fumble. Green Bay gets the ball. They go down and score. They go up by 3. And then Pittsburgh goes 3 and out. They punt, and Green Bay ends up kicking a covering field goal with a minute 12 to go.
Brutal.
After they picked up a 3rd and 12 from their own 19 with 5 minutes to go, when Jennings split Palomalo and Ike Taylor on the 3rd and 12 and spun up to the 40. What people don't realize about gambling and time management, that if they tackle Jennings at the 32 for a first down, field position, now McCarthy runs it 3 times. The clock goes down to the 2-minute warning, and now you have a 3rd and 4, pick up the first down, game's over. If not, they punt. Now they play defense, and you cover getting 3.5. When he busted it up to the 40, you gave McCarthy field position. Then he called a screen to Starks. He got it down to the 40. Then they threw it down to the 20. Then they kicked the covering field goal. That was a heartbreak city Super Bowl loss. So I should be 25-1-2, but I'll tell you what, I'll put 23-3-2 against anybody in the entire world. So whatever you do, just make sure you come to BrandonLang.com and get my Super Bowl pick in February, because
I was going to say,
go to 24-3-2.
We'll be shouting you out periodically, but I definitely want to, if you're not too booked, which sounds like you will be, would love to get you back on the show around that time to discuss that and the Vikings Super Bowl chances when they're going to be down in Miami this year. Wink, wink, nod, nod. I did not believe a single word of that sentence. I
know you did. I know you did.
You could tell. And listen, you don't even need the video.
I'll be glad to come back on. If anybody wants to have me on, I'll come in and talk about it. But I only talk in terms of reality and what my eye test shows me. And I think Minnesota fans and people who listen to your podcast, I know how frustrated I am, and I'm outside the glass room. You people deal with Zimmer every single day, and I think I only speak the truth. And sometimes the truth is hard to handle, but it's right there in front of you. And I know how frustrated.
It's not like, I guarantee you, most people, even the ones that are going to get upset about that, deep down feel it. Like I just keep waiting.
And that's it.
For the other shoe to drop. And I was a big proponent of bringing Cousins here. Like, I put myself out there hard on that. And so I've been kind of reveling in all this national media MVP talk, because I said that was statistically something that was possible before they signed him, just based on the talent around him. But, I'll believe it when he wins a clutch game.
I'll tell you this. It's easy to play quarterback in the NFL when you have a lead and you can manage the rest of the game. The easiest position to play in the NFL. But there are some quarterbacks that can't play from behind when the pressure's on. And let history show Kirk Cousins has made it, and his history shows he's one of those guys that when the chips are down, he always makes the wrong decision more than the right. I hope he proves me wrong for Minnesota fans.
Me
but
too.
I only have to go based on history. And then you parlay that with a coach that coaches not to win, but not to lose.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for failure in the National Football League.
Definitely. Well, thanks for your time, man. I want to remind everyone to go to BrandonLang.com. First visit, you get a one-day all-access pass, so you should definitely check that out. There'll be links in the article to this show on Vikings territory and purplePTSD.com. If you are checking us out via Bleacher Report, then you might want to click over to Vikings territory if this is if you're seeing the stream, and you'll see the link to that in the one-day all-access pass. But again, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really respect what you do and how you do it. I think that some people forget that you have to be entertaining as well, and I don't think you're doing that for show. I think that's your personality, but I just really enjoyed talking to you. So thanks again, and hopefully we'll have you back on in the near future.
No, I'll just tell you this in parting. This is the way I am, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The first time Matthew McConaughey ever called me on the phone, he had watched tape of me on TV doing the football infomercials, and he called me up. He said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Good, Matt. What's up?" He goes, "Listen, I just want to tell you that I watched you on TV. I can't play you at the energy level that you are." He said, "I can't." He goes, "I can't match that. So I hope you don't mind that I'm going to have to play you at a 7." And I said, "Matt, you could play me at a 4 because you're Matthew McConaughey, and for the rest of my life, we're going to be linked together." I go, "Brother, you do so whatever you need to do." And he pulled it off. Couldn't be more thankful. And not too bad a gig having Matthew McConaughey play you.
Yeah, man. You're living the dream. Thanks again, and we'll talk shortly.
You got it. Be good.
All right, everybody. That was Brandon Lang of BrandonLang.com. I apologize for the video. I am relatively new at this, and we're doing a lot of cross-platform streaming. So hopefully it's not too irritating that You're not seeing me right now. I really wish you would, but you're not missing out on anything. I'm 35 years old. I'm pale. I apparently have some sort of breathing issue. So yeah, I wanted to just touch on a few other things beyond that, but man, was that a really cool guest to have as the first guest on the show. He really he addressed a lot of things that I've been worried about. Now I do want to say that I may have been agreeing with a lot of negative things there, but there are things that I've been worried about. And to hear that from somebody who does what he does for a living, which is about as objective as you can get in regards to covering sports, it was a little frightening. I'm not going to lie. I really respect my guests enough to also not really force my Homer Rube opinion down their throat. Well, I believe in it, and belief is half the battle, or whatever motivational poster you have hanging up before your suicide. So I don't want to seem super down on the team because I'm not. But I do just I have a very 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 deep-seated fear that things are going to regress. And I think that's natural for Vikings fans. I think none of us really don't have some form of sports PTSD, and I'm sure there's people out there that take offense to me using that term. I've gotten emails about the website. I'm clearly a relatively high-strung person. If you're new to me or to the show or to the network, I was diagnosed with PTSD in 2014, so I thought, why not do a laughter is the best medicine thing. Update in 2019, it's not working. I'm kidding. But let's just cover a couple things. News of the week. I wrote an article on purplePTSD.com earlier today about the addition of Josh Doctson to this offense. He'll be back most likely for next week. He said he's ready to go right now. It's just a matter of the team utilizing him. I couldn't be more excited about that move or that revelation. The title to my article might be a little bit hyperbolic, but it's essentially that Doctson could make this offense really, really hard to stop. You know, they've never really had a third receiver of note. I mean, Jarius Wright has been the best one. I really like what BC Johnson's doing, but Jarius Wright seems to be the main guy. Let's do this. That looks better. BC Johnson is rather the main guy that they've been utilizing. I don't think that's going to change for short and intermediate throws. But I do think when it comes to running bunch sets, God, just having those three, Doctson, Thielen, and Diggs by each other, should terrify opposing defenses and defensive coordinators. You know, a lot of people write him off because of his career or lack thereof in Washington. I'll use the same refrain that I used when Kirk Cousins was available, and they're the Redskins. Anything they do needs to be disregarded or just looked at, and the opposite should be applied. So I really think that, you know, you can look at him as a much more talented and larger Aldrick Robinson, who I think had 5 touchdowns on 12 catches last year. He was just a touchdown machine, but he was a lot smaller. He was faster, though, than Doctson is. But Doctson is a down-the-field specialist. He's got the ups. He's really good at contested catches like Treadwell was supposed to be. You know, he only had 500 yards each of the last 2 seasons, but he had 6 touchdowns in 2017, 2 last year. Those are primarily down the field. So if you have a guy like that running down the field next to or opposite Diggs and Thielen, and even a 4 wide receiver with BC, or you can throw or so Junior or Kyle Rudolph into that mix. It should make you really excited, especially with his familiarity with Cousins. That's where the Aldrick Robinson comparison comes in, because they know each other. I posted a link to a really nice touchdown they had a couple years ago in that article. I also want to touch on the Curse being arrested, Holton Hill being back, the secondary in general. There's been a lot of talk about Hill versus Rhodes. You know, I think there's been a rotating mob about who's playing worse, Trey Waynes or Xavier Rhodes. Rhodes obviously is getting at least the ire of Zimmer, who is on multiple occasions up and recently said that Rhodes needs to play better. He's not playing up to his contract, so on and so forth. Zimmer doesn't say what he doesn't mean, and for a team that's really strapped for cash, I don't remember what the dead cap money specifically would be for Rhodes, but he's not playing up to his $14 million, and they're making him aware of that. And they're making us aware of it, which means we're supposed to make him aware of it as well. It's like a pressure move by Zimmer, and I heard that somewhere from somebody I really respect that it's just a matter of him turning his head at the wrong time. Like, he's in the right position most of the time. He did get burned against the Giants, but that seems really strange. I have to double check that. I shouldn't use that in my first show, but that I've heard that. Um, I did hear Zimmer specifically say that about the Giants touchdown, but that was amongst other problems. He got beat, he didn't catch up, and he didn't turn his head. It wasn't simply that he turned into what people were afraid Trey Waynes was in 2015, and that everyone thought he couldn't turn because of his shuttle run, and now apparently it's spreading because Rhodes can't turn his head. I think you guys kind of know where I stand on the whole Cousins for MVP thing. I still am wary of him in close games, in important games. That goes for the entire Vikings team. They just don't seem to show up in prime time. That's no secret. But I'm enjoying it because I did make that prediction. I didn't say that he would win it, but I said statistically he'd be in the conversation, top 5. I was really, and put in parentheses, battling to say top 3. And so I kind of make fun of myself a lot, but I do feel like I have good instincts, and that despite my extreme Big Ten bias that I talked about, that a lot of the stuff that I say actually ends up being true. I just don't give myself a ton of credit most of the time because I have a self-deprecating sense of humor. The will they, won't they, or will he, won't they with Mahomes playing. I'll end the show on that. And then I'll be back doing more, actually having video of me and my amazing background. I have people in the background juggling really silent chainsaws. I have a petting zoo for you guys to look at. I rented this Bugatti sports car that's all purple in the back. My girlfriend's been twerking the entire time. I really pulled out all the stops. I'm sorry you can't see it. No, Mahomes is not going to play. That would be really stupid for him to play. The AFC is so wide open that why would you force him back when you don't need him to? If they drop this game, they're 5-4. They're still in first place by at least a game. Why RG3 it and force him back and then have his knee blow out and then end his career? They can't risk that. They're doing it because they want the Vikings to spend time preparing for it. Now, I keep hearing from some people that are like the anti-me in regards to how they watch football, that I want to see Mahomes because I want to see the best team and I want to see the most action, and I don't care about the quality of the game. Even the Redskins game, which was objectively boring, that was at least after the third quarter relatively low stress, but I was basically doing wall sits on air. There's no chair underneath me. I was just sitting there tensely, developing all these knots in my muscles. I don't care about it. If they beat the Chiefs with Mahomes or without him, clearly they're still a good team with Matt Moore. The Packers, at least the Packers game showed us that. I just don't think we should get cute at this point. There's way too much time for us to say, well, we got to see how we compare to the other quote-unquote elite teams. Sure, at some point you're going to have to 20 years, but I'm not too worried about that aspect of it. They can build towards that. What I am worried about is losing and falling back to earth. The defense has not been playing well. The Lions were running roughshod over the entire team. Case Keenum was playing really, really well. I think he was 13-16 for only 130 yards, but he was getting tons of chunk yardage, as if the Vikings were running some 1998 prevents where they wanted to keep everyone in the middle of the field, so the clock kept running in the first quarter. They had some miraculous moves in the red zone, but that's not consistent. You're not going to consistently win doing stuff like that. It almost feels cocky, we don't need to try until we need to try because we're that good. But you're not. You haven't won anything. Just go out and do your job. Joe Oberly, who co-hosts my other podcast, Morning Joe's, was talking about Troy Aikman's statement that the first quarter of the Packers game was because the Vikings defense hadn't found themselves yet. And maybe that's an every season thing they need to do, but these guys have played together for a really long time in the exact same system. Sure, there's new wrinkles to it, but they don't need to find themselves. What other team returned that many starters? Basically 11 starters with with one guy being in Seattle for a year. Just get it together and start winning. I'm sick of the offense winning in spite of the defense, or vice versa. And that might sound like super nitpickery because they gave up 9 points. But that game was a lot closer than it seemed. The Keenum thing was the biggest part of that game, obviously. He was playing like a man possessed. So yeah, I really don't care if Mahomes plays or not. I don't want him to play. I want to win. I want us to stay close in the NFC race for the wild card. If we lose this game, that's another thing the Packers have on us for any future tie break, since I do assume we will beat them at home. I just want to win. That's all. I sound almost like Brandon Lang. I just want to win. I'm all about winning. I like it. Yeah, I'm going to start being more direct and cool. He was a cool guy. A little intimidated by him, though. I'm not going to lie. Intellectually. Not like afraid of him flying up to Minnesota for some reason and uppercutting me, although that would be good content. I have some other stuff I wanted to talk about, but this show's going along for a first show, and I'm really upset that the camera stuff didn't work. I am 35 years old, and I apparently don't know how to use a computer. I'm turning into my dad every day. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. I will be back soon. Keep an eye out. I might just pop up and say hello. I don't know. I'm lonely. But check out Purple PTSD. That's a hard segue. Check out purplePTSD.com and VikingsTerritory.com for all of your Vikings content. Check out Morning Joe's, my podcast. It's live on VikingsTerritory.com as we speak. But this has been the first episode of Purple Update. I'm going to be building towards doing a daily show. So strap in for that, society. No one asked for it, and you're going to get it in small increments. Purple Update. Skull.